Good show coming up today. 3 whitetail hunts. Brother Mark, he's back with us. And we also have a really neat bow grip tip to tell you about. All this and more. Let's get started.
Closing the Distance is brought to you by Matthews Solo Cam. Catch us if you can. Ozonics, scent control that works. Hunter Safety System, dedicated to saving hunters' lives. Executioner Broadheads, born to kill. And by Citadel, revolutionary shoot-down shape. Today we'll follow the guys on 3 whitetail hunts in West Texas. Big bucks coming up. Closing the Distance is made possible by Carbon Express Arrows. Shoot better. Shoot Carbon Express. Christian Bowhunters of America, exalting Christ as Creator, Savior, and Lord. Nikon, the trusted name in optics. Sword Sights, sharp solutions in aiming. Elusive Wildlife Technologies, taking the elusive out of wildlife. And by the amazing Luminok. Can your arrow nock do this?
All right, this is a deer that we had named Split 2. It's a deer that the previous season we had picked him out, and we had all kind of mutually decided that this was a 4-year-old deer. And the ranch that we're hunting on out there in central Texas, highly managed ranch. It's a low fence ranch, but man, we just pretty much agree that we don't want to shoot anything until they're at least 5 years old. And this was a deer that we had determined, right, wrong, or indifferent, that he was a 4-year-old. And it was really, really difficult to pass on this deer at 4 years old. We had a couple opportunities on him, and we were rolling the dice that we may never see him again. When season rolled around and that deer was still there, he was showing up. He had lost the Split 2, but he had gained probably about 6 or 8 inches at least. We knew we did the right thing letting him walk, because he was definitely bigger at 5 years old. Problem was, we're not seeing the deer. We're not seeing him anywhere. So finally, early December, we start getting a lot of pictures of this deer in a location kind of towards the back of the property. And the problem with this location is the wind is just not right. It's just not gonna be right. But we gotta try it, we gotta go there, because that's where he is. And if we're gonna get the deer, we gotta go to where he is. So we knew we were gonna be relying heavily on this Ozonics. And man, I tell you what, we set that Ozonics up and it could not be worse for us. We have the wind, a pretty good breeze blowing right across our back, right out to where we have the corn on the ground. And I'm hoping, well, what I was hoping is we'd maybe get kind of he'd coming in from the left or the right, and we'd kind of get a cross situation. We see this deer, he's 300 yards out, he's not chasing doe, he's following doe, he's on some doe out there, and that's given me some hope, because I know if these doe will circle around and come into our setup, I might have an opportunity if the Ozonics holds on. Sure enough, about 2 hours later, I have a buck coming in directly into the wind at me, and right behind him, smaller buck, but right behind him, there's Split 2. Split 2 is coming right at me, and I've got my phone in my hand when I looked up and saw him, so I actually used my cell phone to actually film the deer a little bit as he was coming to me, and I slipped that in my jacket. And now all I can do is just pray that this deer doesn't bust us up there. He's got his nose into the wind, he's looking, he's cautious, and he's not finding us. So now it's just a matter of waiting for a shot. He's kind of facing me, and I don't have an opportunity to get a shot at him. Finally, this deer, I could not tell you how relieved I was when I was actually looking to my right when he turned, and I heard Shane whisper to me, "You got him," and I looked, and sure enough, he had turned, gave me the shot that I needed. He would not turn. This deer was looking right at us. We had our corn thrown down there on the ground.
Dude, I'm not trying to interrupt you.
No,
here.
go ahead.
My God, did this ozonics work or what?
Oh my God. Really quickly, folks, let me show you real quick. I don't know if you can see this. I got a puff bottle. I want you to look at that. That's the other thing. I was freaking out up here. If you can see this puff.
Blowing right out to him.
Right there is where we shot that deer. And you saw, I don't know if you got his nose, and he kept trying to find us, almost like he thought something might be there. Man, we ran that ozonics. Show it right behind us. Folks, I have no reason to lie to you. It is not a gimmick. We had a huge 200-pound hog come in on us, maybe a month ago? Right through our wind. If you can beat a hog, you can beat anything. And that thing beat a hog, and that's when I was already on board, but I was 100% on board when it beat that hog. And sure enough, today,
Give me one more puff.
Come out here, and the wind is totally wrong, but man, this is where the deer's coming to. We knew we had to do it. You see that? Wind is good. Look at that. Right directly to where I shot that deer. I mean, the wind is going right to him. There is no excuse for that other than that ozonics right behind you. I'm absolutely thrilled to death. I'm still nervous and my heart's still pounding. Man, look at that deer. Golly. Oh my goodness gracious. What a great buck. I mean, what a fantastic buck. This is a 5-year-old deer and a absolutely beautiful, beautiful buck. Especially out here for Central Texas, man. This is what you want to try to get on. This is a typical 8. This deer, we called him Split 2. We saw him last season and passed on him. We felt like he was a 4-year-old. Wanted to give him another year. Last year we called him Split 2 because this 2 over here on his right side actually forked. Tried to do it again this year. But I tell you what, that is a great buck, man. Great, absolutely fantastic deer. I am so absolutely stoked.
After the break, pro staffer Shane Steele shares his hunt. Closing the Distance will be right back. Closing the Distance is proudly supported by Whitetails Unlimited, working for an American tradition. Real World Wildlife Seed, dare to compare. And by Fish and Still Equipment, your East Texas John Deere dealer.
If you've ever bow hunted, you've had something like this happen to you before. In my particular case, it seems to happen on a pretty regular basis. This deer that we were after, his name was Palmer. He had a little bit of palmation on his left main beam and his G2. Nice deer. We hadn't seen him in person, but we had plenty of Moultrie trail cam pictures of him. We just hadn't been able to get on him yet.
Well, I tell you, Shane has had some terrible luck. I've been hunting with him a long time, and he's made some great shots on some deer, but he's also made some bad shots on some deer, so he needed his luck to change. And on this particular hunt, he'd spent the better half of the season filming me, the first half of the season filming me. We only had about 2 months left in the season, so he was anxious to get on a deer, and we had a really good mature buck that was going to a setup that we call the Rocket. We were kind of excited. It was an evening hunt, and man, we were having activity. We saw doe. We had several doe that had come in. A little while after that, we saw some young bucks. The activity was getting us excited. We thought, man, this might be the night, but who knows, man. We'd had that happen to us before and just really hadn't seen a mature deer. Well, sure enough, all of a sudden, on our left-hand side over there, this deer comes, he just gets on us out of nowhere.
Obviously, my adrenaline's pumping like crazy. There's some branches off to my left-hand side. I need him to take about 5 or 6 more steps to get into the clear.
it's just a bad shot. Just gonna have to wait on them, and I'll maybe come out on them in the morning. I'm just sick about that, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. Y'all all saw the shot. I'm not gonna try and sugarcoat it. It wasn't pretty. In fact, it was terrible. But it was so terrible that it may work out for us. We've had other deer shot out here like this also. We have a friend of ours that shot one back like that, and there's a major artery that runs back there, but this is all going to be dependent upon what this arrow looks like. Yeah, that's gut. I'm pretty sure that's gut. I want to see if there's any reason for hope. Well, I mean, here's my hand. I don't know if you can see that. But I do. I don't know what I'm smelling here. Well, that is sign for an encouragement right there. But I'm still not gonna, get too excited. But there is some hope there. That's good.
We're going to give him at least 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
We're going to give him a long time, if not the whole night. We may have to come back in the morning.
We're still undecided about that, but yeah, I can definitely smell gut on that arrow, but that blood is very promising, so we're going to let that thing lay for a while and we'll see what happens.
Hey, it ain't pretty. I'm not gonna lie to you. It ain't pretty.
That's all good. Them hogs have been on it, huh?
Yeah, the hogs have been on it. He's all stiffened up. He ran. I mean, he's stiff right here. But, man, we got him. My, oh my. Ugh, I mean, he's all rigor mortis and they've been on him.
What's on his antler right there?
That's bird poop.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's bird poop. But man, oh man, we got him. He's probably, I don't know, he's probably 300 yards from where we shot him last night, and he's all stiffened up. But man, am I happy about that.
As bow hunters, we see this mistake happen a lot. We don't leave the pin on the target. We drop that bow arm because we want to watch the shot as it happens. In this case with Shane, this is a buck that he had been hunting all season long. This is a buck that he had multiple trail cam pictures of. This was his target deer for the year, and he didn't think it was going to happen. There were several times he was telling me that he thought that he was going to get to go to the lease and didn't get to go. And life gets in the way sometimes of letting us go hunting. And he thought his season was over with, but kind of at the last few days of the season, he got to go. The buck stepped out, and he was such in a mental rush to get his hands on the deer that he just didn't leave the pin on the target. And as bow hunters, there's a couple things that we can do to help correct that mistake. And one thing is to change the way that you grip your bow.
Glenn, that makes a lot of sense what you were talking about. I have always shot with my hands open.
Yes.
And I know that's what you're teaching to shoot, but that is a great point where you were telling me to kind of close my knuckles in and barely touch the bow like this.
Yep.
That keeps me from flinching.
Yes.
And I never even thought about that. I've always shot open-handed and was taught that was correct. But I guarantee you there's been times that I've flinched my hands upon release that makes me do that. So you're saying if you're in this position to start with, you're less likely to flinch when you shoot.
Just grab the bow after the shot. So
Cutting
down on torque.
That's a great tip, and I know for many years most people, and I've taught people to shoot hands open.
Yep.
And I'm not saying you're saying no, don't grip the bow.
Yep.
You're just saying close your knuckles up so that when you do release, you don't flinch and try to grip.
Yep.
And that's a good tip.
More hunts coming up. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Closing the Distance. One more hunt to show you with pro staffer Scott York. A front's coming in, starting to rain, that weather's starting to get a little cooler. Those big bucks are on their feet.
That is a different buck. There's a couple of them that are younger. What's that? What's that buck? That's some young stud with a kicker. That's that freaking crazy buck, dude. That's young. Here comes a big deer. Freaking big deer. What the heck is that? On the left, on the left. What is it? He's starting to turn the other way. What a buck. That's a big 8-point with long brow tines. Chad, I call that deer long brow tines. That's a stud. As you saw, he dropped. I'll take that any day, man. I know right where our buck is. We can go straight to him. Ground blind worked out perfect. What a morning. Look at this buck. Look at the mass on this deer and the brow tines. You know, Chad and I call this buck the brow tine buck. We've never seen him in person. We have a couple pictures, but hey, we call him the brow tine buck for a reason. I mean, those are 7-inch brow tines. Great G2s and 3s. But look at the mass. I didn't realize how massive this buck is. God, man, what a stud. Big body, big neck. He's been rutting. Look how dark this forehead is right here. I mean, he's been rubbing on the trees and putting his scent all around. His hocks are black. So he's been rutting hard already. And I tell you what, the does were the key this morning. We were in a ground blind, and it worked out perfectly. We've only hunted that ground blind twice this season. We've let it sit. It's been there a year now, and it worked out perfect. But the does came in early, and that was the key. Then later the bucks came in to investigate them. And you know what, how it always is, you have a couple young ones come in, and then here came Big Daddy behind them. And I knew when I saw him, he was the one we wanted to try to take. And it worked out. Hey, it's cold, nasty, rainy. But hey, that's what these big bucks like. You can't shoot one like this if you're back at the camp sleeping. Don't be afraid to get out in some of this weather sometimes. The bucks and the does, they were on their feet this morning. They're trying to go ahead and feed before the really crazy weather happens later. Just perfect conditions.
You know, everybody talks about game management these days, and we know what they're talking about. They're talking about letting young and immature deer walk so that they can one day reach their full potential. And I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I've been hunting my whole life and love to hunt, and it's hard at times. It's hard to let a really good deer walk that you know is too young. But you know, you have to keep the big picture in mind. It's the only way that you can really do it. And you know that if you do the right thing now, even though it may be hard, that it's going to pay off and you're going to be glad you did. You know, the Bible says in Romans chapter 8 and verse 28 that all things work together for the good of those that trust in God, that God has a big picture for your life. And even though in the moment you can be faced with some real challenges and difficult times, and you can wonder if you're doing the right thing, the scriptures say that if you really put your trust in God and always honor Him in everything that you do, that you can trust that everything is going to work out for your good and work out for the best. If you'd like to know more about a personal relationship with God through His Son Jesus Christ, Just go to closingthedistance.com and click on the Moment of Truth tab.